This is the Work Smart Hypnosis Podcast, session number 430, the one method that makes hypnosis work.
Welcome to the Work Smart Hypnosis Podcast with Jason Linett, your professional resource for hypnosis training and outstanding business success. Here's your host, Jason Linett.
Now, I know that is a rather bold claim that in the shape of this next little bit of time here on this week's episode of the Work Smart Hypnosis Podcast, I'm going to basically reveal the one method that makes hypnosis work. And to do that, though, we're actually about to together transport through time and space by traveling into an audio of a replay of one of the recent Work Smart Hypnosis Live online trainings. Now, you're going to hear the element of the story that I'll kick this off with told in a little bit more detail, but basically, there's a segment of the training program that I used to do typically around like day 5 or day 6 of the training, so further into it. And then one time, there was this incredible and colorful epiphany that played out during the event, and from that day, it then became something that I now address on day 1 of the event, very often within the very first hour of the program. Now, I'm going to caution you here, which is, first of all, I'm going to give you 2 choices. Choice number 1 is that, of course, you can continue to listen to this episode as an audio podcast, which is probably what you're doing right now. Option 2 would be after you finish listening to this introduction, you could, if you want, head over to worksmarthypnosis.com/430, because actually over on that page, we have the video replay of this section of the class. That way you can see the interactive nature. That way also you can see the incredibly high-tech visual aids that make up part of this lesson, which, I'm sharing my screen and basically showing a Word document. It's that simple. Though the context of this is, I'm a big fan of innovation. I love when there's new concepts, new ideas hitting our hypnotic space. I love to see the passion that people have when suddenly here's that new hot thing that everybody's excited about. Here's this method that, oh, you haven't learned that yet? You need to learn that. That's like the thing that everybody's talking about, the thing that everybody's excited about. However, what you're about to listen to is, again, the one method that makes hypnosis work, because embedded inside of every induction, the methods that we use to actually hypnotize our clients, embedded inside of the deepening methods that we use to further, let's say, amplify the hypnotic state, if you want to use other terminology, inside of the methods for creating the change, and even inside the methods of how we eventually then emerge the client from hypnosis. This has been my sort of formal list to basically then say, damn near every part of the hypnotic experience comes back to the core formula embedded inside of one method. And again, a preview of one of the stories you're about to hear was that somebody at one point who went through the class, he already was trained in hypnosis, and he actually said, somehow in the opening hour, you ruined every other training that I had been through, and at the same time, you improved upon every other training that I've been through. I am intentionally keeping this opening segment a little vague, because if I was to simply come out and tell you, oh, here's the method, many of you, I've learned, would go, oh, I know what that is. I don't need to listen to this episode. And I've quickly learned that this thing that you're about to listen to, and you're going to hear the interaction of me along with the training group that was inside of this program. This is actually a replay from the January 2022 event, which we actually have one coming up, kicking off January of 2024. If you're curious about the event, this is not all that we do. This is a 28, 30 or so minute segment of class number 1, where we meet on Zoom for these live real-time interactive practice sessions. It's combined with video instruction in a hybrid event, and it's truly about building confidence in your hypnotic work. So for those of you that are brand new to hypnosis, this has been a launching ground for many new professionals in the industry. And even you're going to hear some voices that might sound a little bit familiar at times here, because we also classically have people attend this training event that are already significantly trained, perhaps already out there professionally seeing clients, and how we're all on this journey of furthering our knowledge, advancing our skills, and just bringing greater precision and reliability to the hypnotic work that we do. So you can check out the details of the next event that's scheduled. You can head over to worksmarthypnosislive.com. That's where you can watch the video tour. Once again, I'm joined by my co-host and co-trainer, Dr. Richard Nongard, on this upcoming event, where you can check out the dates, check out the details, and hey, you're about to get the user experience. And again, notice, could I just point out one more time that I've intentionally not told you in advance what this one method is. The reason being that far too often we end up in this scenario I've learned with education that, well, information alone is not enough to solve the problems that we're often facing. We don't have any lack of information. It's a classic quote from a business speaker by the name of Derek Sivers, who one time said, if everything in life came down to having the right information, we would all be billionaire CEOs with six-pack abs. I care more about how well can you implement, how well can you put these methods into use. And I've had many people over the years, we've had several hundred folks go through the Work Smart Hypnosis Live online event, and this has been a major turning point, not just for those that are brand new and wondering, how do I actually do the hypnosis stuff? Which is the technical term, by the way, but also the seasoned professionals who suddenly are able to step off to the side and see a lot of the work for the simplicity that it truly represents. Because, hey, it's not about working hard, it's about working smart. Work Smart Hypnosis? See what I did there? Yeah. Okay, if you didn't catch on to that until now, we've been running it for 8.5, maybe 9 years at this point now. So 2 options here. One, you can continue to listen to this week's episode as audio only. It works perfectly fine just by audio. Or, as we're about to wrap up this kickoff intro, you could pause it after the intro. When you hear the music, head over to worksmarthypnosis.com/430. That'll be the podcast player page on my worksmarthypnosis.com website. Just throw in /430 at the end of it. But also, if you scroll down on that page, we will have the real video replay of this segment there so you can actually watch it and observe it as well. So check out the details for the next event over at worksmarthypnosislive.com. And with that, here we go. Session number 430, the one method that makes hypnosis work. Hey, would it be helpful if in the span of this first hour of class, we kind of pulled the rug respectfully out from under all the different techniques in this profession and basically showed you how nearly every method you're going to learn comes back to the same core principles. And even before I explain what I'm about to share with you, let me give you the feedback of what I'm about to show you. Someone who took this training about a year ago this time goes, somehow in the first hour, he'd already been trained. He'd already been working and seeing clients. As the pandemic kicked in, he watched his children all get laid off or furloughed, and they went, let's turn this into a family business. And the whole family took the training from different parts of the country altogether. He goes, somehow in the first hour, his words, you ruined every training I've ever been through. And you enhanced and improved every training I've been through as well. Because I mention this because the whole idea of ruining and enhancing at the same time, sometimes we're a culture that, especially if we're new, or especially if some new hot thing hits the scene and everyone's all jazzed about this one new technique. And what happens is we often put some specific methodology up onto a pedestal and we say, this is the thing that works for everything now. And then a year goes by and some new thing hits the scene and we go, no, it's this now. This is what I'm doing with everybody. When respectfully, all this work is derivative of the same core patterns. And it's how in the span of the next 15, 20 minutes, I'm going to show you how, whether it's an induction, whether it's a deepener, and you'll come to know what these things are if this is new to you, whether it's a technique for change, whether it's interactive, whether you're the one guiding the process, would it be helpful to already know the foundation of every technique you're going to learn in the next span of weeks? as well as anything else you may do in the future in a matter of a short amount of time. If that'd be helpful, just give me a wave so I can see. Yeah, that's what we'd like to see. Cool. So let's go to the fancy screen share here, high tech. You always want to make sure you hire the best of graphic designers if you're teaching to make sure everything is professionally designed. So here's Microsoft Word. So nearly everything in hypnosis linguistically comes around to a cause and effect relationship. And I'll kind of take the lead on the first half of this, and we'll actually break out and play with this. This becomes interactive very quickly here, which, by the way, the quick side note to this is that sometimes you will see the same concepts presented with different terminology. So be careful, because sometimes there might be the moment where someone's teaching something and you're going, I don't know what that is. But then you ask a follow-up question and go, oh, it's just that. So I bring this up because sometimes you'll see cause and effect relationship. Let me nerd out in my spacing here. Sometimes you'll see action result. If you really want to get some of the advanced terminology, you may see a pace followed by a lead. Do not fall prey to the idea that these are three separate concepts. This is the same idea presented 3 times over. I bring this up because it's like 10 years ago, we're hosting a guest training event, and a well-known person who ended the story first apologized and goes, that was kind of arrogant of me. And he goes, in the middle of a workshop, 30 people in the room, wait a minute, none of you know what linking statements are? Jesus, who's teaching these people? Linking statements are the core foundation of hypnosis. And he starts to draw up on the board exactly what he's talking about, to which someone goes, oh, you mean pacing and leading? And he goes, yeah. And then everybody was on board once again. And everybody in the room had the same context. To really illustrate this, even before we break it down, not necessarily a hypnotic demo, but notice how you respond if I give you this simple direction. Everybody go ahead and relax on down. And it's kind of jarring. Some of you kind of tensed up. We spotted the hypno junkies who go, I need to assume the hypnotic position. We felt the need to get into something. So to simply give the command, go ahead and relax on down, the brain doesn't quite have a context in terms of what to do with it. Notice what's different, and I'll do my best to say it with the exact same tonality that I did a moment ago, but notice what happens differently if I add in one extra ingredient to be a part of this. So a simple instruction, please. Everybody go ahead, just take a nice deep breath in, just briefly let those lungs fill up with air. And as you exhale, go ahead and relax on down. And it gets a very different response because now there's a context to it. Now there's a cause and effect relationship in a sense that it has a connection. Now, because this thing happens, that thing happens. There's something relatively Pavlovian about it, that as you do this, you get this response. So the beauty of this now becomes we can actually trace nearly every technique you'll learn throughout this event back to this core foundation of language. And yes, this is a language pattern you'll come to know and love rather soon. But the fact is, the sooner you realize that it's the same core patterns replicating, the sooner you'll find that confidence increasing more and more in terms of your ability to customize to that person on the fly. Even better, while this is not necessarily a training that, as the old school approach would have been, here's your magic binder of scripts, read them once your eyes are closed. Understanding what you see on the screen right now gives you the ability to go back and, let's say it this way, pull source material out of someone else's document to go, oh, here's something I can do with a client for this situation. So let's, for the sake of this, get a little interactive for a moment. And I'm going to rely for right now just on the more technical terminology of a pace and lead. What is a pacing statement? At its core, a pacing statement, the easiest definition, is something that is stated that is sensorily, verifiably true without judgment. That's a whole lot of words to explain an extremely simple concept. Something that is by your senses, touch, taste, sight, smell, hearing, something that by your senses is verifiably true without judgment. So if I said, You can notice the temperature of the room you're in. That doesn't have any judgment attached to it. That gets what we like to call the full body unconscious, But if I said, notice the warmth of the air in the room that you're sitting in. Warmth is now a judgment, not necessarily a critical judgment, but it's making an assessment of a situation. And it kind of drives you inside to make a measurement now. Is it warm? Is it cool? Is it just right? So this is a situation where less is so much more. And the reason I have you all on the gallery view right now is for the first pass of this, I can see everybody who's in this space. And I can say, I'm on a smaller screen for the one here in front of me. I can say, notice the frame on the wall behind Karen. Notice the headphones that Jesse's wearing. Notice Amit sitting with his head on his hand. Yeah. I can look and say, see the books behind Richard. Yeah. Notice the light behind Andrea. So that's the simplicity of this for right now. We've not yet put on the second phase, which is that of looking for a result. Right now, we're just in the foundation as to give us a pacing statement of something that is sensorily, verifiably true. So the way that I'm going to do this is if we have everybody unmute at once, it becomes this sort of big echo chamber of sound. So I'm going to go to Jesse first. So Jesse, if you can go ahead and unmute yourself. And you'll hear me do this pattern here where I'll say, Jesse's up first with Kimberly on deck, which means Jesse's up first and then Kimberly's next. And then when I, in a moment, go, okay, and Kimberly with Greg on deck, that means if I say you're on deck, go ahead and unmute yourself just so we don't have as much, back and forth and so forth of that. So you can cheat here and you can look at the entire room and let's turn that on for you. You can look at the entire space and just simply acknowledge something that we all can notice as being verifiably true without judgment. So Jesse, kick us off.
Yeah. All right.
And it may even not even be a full sentence. It might be as simple as notice the headphones Jesse is wearing.
Yeah. Notice the blanket behind me on my bed.
Nice. So then Kimberly with Greg on deck.
Notice the way that Karen has her hand or her head resting on her hand.
Greg with Claire Stroud on deck.
Notice the tree behind me.
Nice. Claire with Amit on deck.
Notice the tree behind Cynthia.
Nice. I like that tree too. I'm judging it in a positive way. Amit with Olga on deck.
And notice the red pillow behind Shireen.
Yes, that's red. Okay. Someone in a previous class was like, notice the blue pillow behind Jason. And if you know me, that is not blue, damn it. Olga.
Notice the color of Jason's t-shirt.
Ooh, nice. Not even going for the color, going for the ultimate ambiguity. Just notice the color. Awesome. Can I thank you all, by the way, for the fact that we've actually been doing this class online for a whole bunch of years. And this is the first time ever. No one froze up because we're going for the simplicity of it. Thank you. Thank you. So let's add another layer on top of this, though, because a pacing statement can also be something beyond senses. The concept of we could say something that's verifiably true or something that has already been stated as true. So I'll give you an example of this. And let me switch to my screen here for a quick moment. And I have no patter in front of me. I have not rehearsed this. And just imagine that I've already done some kind of intake with my client, because the fact that you've made this decision to become a non-smoker means that with every breath you exhale, you're noticing yourself becoming healthier and healthier. Well, where did the first part come from? Well, that might have been something we talked about before the session began. We can also take things that are true based upon actions. Sticking with the stop smoking client. And again, these are all the same. I'm just going to stick with the pace and lead for this one. And because you've already thrown out those cigarettes, it means that you're already a non-smoker. And as you're already a non-smoker, oh, did you catch that little magic? I can take the thing that became the previous lead and let that become the next pace. Let's riff off of weight loss for a moment. As you begin to slow down with the intention of enjoying food more, assuming that's something we've already talked about in advance of the session, you're realizing that now it's your choice what goes into your mouth, when, where, and how much. And as you're enjoying that choice now absolutely being yours, you're realizing that never again does any specific food have any power over you. And as you're realizing that power is entirely yours, you can now be drawn to all the healthy colors of nature, the foods and their natural sources. And this is A becomes B, B becomes C, C becomes D, and it's just compounding upon each other. What was missing from this was hearing the entire intake where those things would have already come up. And sometimes this is where you have two ears and one mouth, and our communication ought to be proportionate sometimes. Somehow I told this story twice this week. The client who came in, it was a day, this had to have been 2013, 2014 or so. It was right after sort of the mortgage financial crisis of like 2008, 2009 kind of settled before the next one. And the situation was, here's this one day with like 7 clients in a row, and every single one of them had the goal of quitting smoking. Every session that day was different. Not for the sake of my entertainment and novelty, but because they all came in with a different set of goals. Here's the one that, I mean, this guy was brilliant and he changed the way I work with everybody. He's 22 years old, recently diagnosed with skin cancer. He was the lifeguard who never put on sunscreen and just doing everything he can, as he put it, to build a better environment for health in his body. So there were no shortness of breath. There were no specific symptoms from the cigarettes. And of course, he's the guy going, you know what? This has got nothing to do with cigarettes. This has been my response to everything. Like I used to say, I smoke because I'm stressed, but I even do it when I'm happy. When I get good news, I stress. When I get pissed off, I smoke. So this has got more to do with me being in better touch with my emotions and realizing I've got more choices than I ever knew before. Like, this guy's more prepared than most people coming in. In comes the last appointment of the day. Standard intake goes out, and then suddenly he leans in. And you know what I'm convinced, though? This is him. I'm convinced it's that whole 1% that's still around. It's all these multimillionaires and billionaires putting all their money into the cigarette companies, and they have even more money in the pharmaceuticals because they're trying to make money off of you, whether they're killing you or trying to pretend to save you. And like this session suddenly became all about conspiracy theory. And this concern as to it's his middle finger up in the air, and that's why he's quitting. I have never done a session like that ever since. Where did that come from? You've seen already or about to see the whole Work Smart intake, and that's where that information came from. So the other version of a pacing statement is something we have already verified as true. Now, there's a lot of the intro videos from many of you from this group that are inside of that Work Smart Hypnosis community. I'm sure at this point, some of you have seen them. Some of you maybe have not yet dove into them. So here's your option. I'm about to randomly call on you once again, and I'll do my best to pick different people, but give us a pacing statement once again, either option 1 or option 2. Option 1 would be, if you've watched the intro videos, or hey, you've heard intros from both Richard and myself, you can steal from us, state something that's now a pacing statement that we've already verified to be true, based upon maybe something that someone has shared in one of their videos, or something that Richard and I have shared in terms of the perspective of this training. Or here's an easy assumption. Everybody's here for basically the same goal. Everybody's here to go through a hypnosis training and do hypnosis better. There you go. We already have a truism that's true of all of us. So I'm going to randomly call once again. We'll kick off with Ron G for the first one here. My screen just completely changed and I lost you. There you are. We'll kick off with you first. So this one's not the notice something on the wall. This one's not the notice the color in the space or the temperature. This one's state something back that in some way we've verified, either from my intro, Richard's intro, someone else's intro that you've seen, or again, utilize the fact that we were all here for basically the same goal, we'll kick off with Ron with Robina on deck.
I'm not really sure, but we're all here to help other people get what they want out of life.
We'll take it. I like it. Nicely done. Charlene with Courtney on deck.
Because Robina practiced with making a video, her intro video yesterday, I've noticed how much better she is today.
Oh, and already jumping ahead and applying the lead. Overachiever, you may have your certificate now. Courtney with Mel on deck.
And because you decided to learn more about hypnosis, you're becoming more and more focused.
And already applying the second step, jumping ahead of us. But again, congratulations, you're doing fantastic. All we need is the first half for right now, just as you've decided to be here. Keep it simple. Mel with Thomas on deck.
As you learn more and improve your knowledge.
Oh, did you hear that? She wanted to keep going. Brings the natural intention into this. Awesome. And then Thomas with Joni to bring us home.
Because online hypnosis training is every bit as effective, if not more, than in-person training.
Cool. And Joni.
And as you notice that Zoom really is effective.
She wanted to keep going. You could hear it in her voice, which is why let's put the whole system together now. And again, this is extremely simple. I have to tell this is not my joke. It's not from Scott Sandlin. It's not self-deprecating humor. It's self-defecating humor. This is something I used to save for like day 3 of an in-person training where I go, let's understand the linguistics. Let's understand the verbal structure that makes all of this work. And then I'd introduce this later in the event. In the online trainings, it would even show up like class 3 or 4 with a list of patterns. True story, which is not meant to do this too early, yet this is back when I was in Virginia. She and her husband lived, I believe, in Georgia. She was a dentist of like 30 years who did hypnosis part-time. And in retirement from dentistry, wanted to go full-time hypnosis. Her husband, at the same time, had what I still believe to this day is the best prerequisite to become a professional hypnotist. It's either barber or bartender, and he had been both. Just talk about people skills. And he goes, I want to do it too. Where should I learn? And she goes, there's a guy up in Virginia who's been doing hypnosis for less time than I have. I've been doing it more than he's been alive at the time of the story. And I've never seen someone. I've seen Jason's videos. Again, this is not meant to be this. I've seen Jason's videos and just the way that I can tell he's, extemporaneous and making it up as he goes, but it's customized and it's specific and the patterns are precise. I don't know if anyone else is doing it that smoothly on the fly. I want to learn how he's doing that. And I think that's where you should go too. Let's go together. And true story, it's day 3 of this live event. I launch into this moment. And can I say it here? The most professional, polite, put together person in the room goes, oh shit, that's all you're doing? Oh, I can do that. That's easy. Because it really can be that simple. If you understand this basic context, whether it's advanced strategies we're going to get into later, because there's more than this. It's the reason why this is the first hour of a bigger event. Once you understand this, there are people who I've heard over the years say, you can't get permanent change with direct suggestion hypnosis, to which I would say they don't understand customization. They don't understand compounding. They don't understand basic linguistics. Is this all I'm going to do? Sometimes. Yet, is it also a component of everything else, including some rather advanced strategies that, yes, we will be getting into? So as soon as we get this foundation in place, that's when that confidence really begins to rise. And if you've listened to everything I've said for the last hour, you've also begun to realize I've been running this pattern over and over the entire way through, because the more you listen to me, the more you realize this pattern is embedded inside of all communication. And even as the class wraps up and you continue watching the videos, you'll start to hear the pattern inside of it. And even when you're away from Hypnoland and engaging in conversations with people and maybe even listening to people giving directions or instructions, you start to notice just how universal this is, because it's just the nature of communication. It's also the nature of the brain that everything goes back to associative memory, that when I do this, this is what occurs. When I had to print something out this morning and scan it, and this little image popped up on my computer, it told me that no, I had to log out of my wife's computer and then log into mine because we're cheap and we keep sharing the same Adobe license because why not? And it told me I need to run the sequence to then make it work because A happened, B happened. When we ring the bell, the dog salivates. Ring the bell, it's all associative connection. So this is where, for those of you that were chomping at the bit before, you get to do both parts. So when I call on you here, you'll give us a pace followed by a lead. And the beauty of this is that there's not one specific way you have to do it. For the pacing statement, it could be something sensory verifiably true. Notice the tree behind Cynthia. Notice the color of, that is the best Zoom name I've ever seen, King Simba. Thank you. Notice the hat that he's wearing. Notice Leslie's glasses. Notice Kate smiling. You can use the sensory verifiably, just call out something that you see, or it can be the truism, something that we've already acknowledged. I'm blanking on the name because it says NorCal on there, but has a background in tech, which you need to chat with Stephanie Dachatow because she's hypnotechnogeek.com. How cool is that? Notice the blurred background behind MJ. This person's here with an experience of hypnosis. So pacing statement of your choosing, and I will lead you slightly in the lead because, hey, why not? We're here for the same common shared goals. The lead you'll come to know and love in a more fancy term inside of a hypnosis training. Give a suggestion for change, which, for the sake of this, direct that lead towards the entire group that's here and make it a positive suggestion around motivation to learn, clarity in learning, excitement to dive into practice, something that you feel would be appropriate for the reasons that we're all here that can actually create a benefit. So let's kick off here with MJ, and we'll have, I got to go with the name on screen, King Simba on deck. So a pace followed by a lead, and for the lead that we're going for here, a suggestion to everybody with a positive intent towards learning.
As you pay attention to your computer screen, you'll definitely learn something new you hadn't known today.
Nice, nice. King Simba with Cynthia on deck.
As we all notice the color of Jason's shirt, it causes us to realize that the skills in this class that we're going to acquire will help us change the world.
I wore the royal color purple just for you, King. That's why. That and Prince is the greatest artist that ever lived. Cynthia with Anna P on deck.
Because 90% of success is showing up, you all get an A, and A students teach better to their students.
Nice.
Huzzah, people.
Nice. Anna with Cassidy on deck. Or swap it out as she finds the unmute button. Cassidy with Anna on deck.
Oh. Notice the clock behind Claire, as she will always know the appropriate time.
Bring it to the context of learning. Just add a little bit more.
Notice the clock behind Claire, as she will be on time for learning.
Nice. I'll jump in for Anna as she's figuring out her muting situation with John on deck. But as Anna eventually finds the unmute button, she's illustrating to all of us the importance of listening to your client and observing what changes they wish to create. Boom. John with Casey on deck.
As you're all here watching your screens, you can begin to more easily absorb the information that Jason is teaching us and remembering things far more easier than you have in the past.
Nice. Casey with Nicola on deck to bring us home.
As you notice the chair supporting you, you're reminded of your purpose to advance your skills in the online sessions.
Nice. And even as you continue to build your skills in the online sessions, you start to realize how little is different from then transitioning from the online to the in-person. Hey, it's Jason Linett here once again, and as you've been listening to this episode, it helps you to realize all the ways that the core components of hypnotic communication are embedded inside the work that we do. And as you continue to see clients, it will help you to become even more confident in the ways that you're now finding yourself freestyling hypnotic language patterns in real time. And as you perhaps are in that school of thought where it's time for you now to put those rigid scripts and protocols back in the closet and out of your reach, it reminds you that now you can feel more confident working with people in real time. And as you can hear the doorbell and my dog barking at that, it means that I need to go. So thank you for listening to the episode. And again, head over to WorkSmartHypnosisLive.com, check out the video tour of our upcoming event, and dive in to this awesome event. See you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Work Smart Hypnosis Podcast at WorkSmartHypnosis.com.